And MSNBC analyst Eugene Robinson, also Associate Professor of Religious Studies at the University of Pennsylvania, Anthea Butler. Thank you both for joining me tonight. Professor Butler, I have to start with you. A lot of religion's been thrown around this morning on Morning Joe, and now here tonight in the last few minutes. Let's go to this thing that Reverend Graham brought up this morning, that Islam is something that you are born into. If your father and your grandfather were Muslims, then you don't have to check with anybody. You're a Muslim.
Well, you know, what's so funny to me about this is Franklin Graham is in the business of being a missionary, and part of what's going on with him is that he's trying to be an evangelist to do this. That's just not true. One of the things that he said this morning that needs to be corrected is that President Obama's grandfather was actually Christian before turning Muslim, okay? So he was a convert. So to make up this whole strain of because his dad was a Muslim, he's a crypto-Muslim, or however one wants to put it, is just hogwash. And it was just appalling this morning to see him sully the memory of his father this way.
Gene Robinson, is this still, there was this theory out there in political land last week that some religiosity getting into the campaign was helpful to Rick Santorum because it highlights in some ways Mitt Romney's Mormonism, which, as we've seen, evangelical Christians are uncomfortable with, and it brings the strength of Rick Santorum's hardcore conservatism to the fore. Have they now crossed a line into something that is alienating to the vast majority of American voters, this kind of, I'm a Christian, you're not a Christian, who is a Christian?
I think they certainly have. I mean, this drawing of lines and closing of the door against some who would profess to be Christians, but I don't think they really are. That gets out into kind of loony territory in the minds, I think, of many independents, and I think it's ill-advised if Rick Santorum were to win the nomination and would like to win the general election. I don't even think it's net that much of a help in the primary. He obviously thinks it's going to help him with evangelicals, but I think he's gone too far with this.
Well, let's listen to the White House reaction to it today with Jay Carney.
He firmly believes that getting an extra $40 in every paycheck is of vastly greater significance to most Americans than someone's opinion expressed on cable television about his personal faith.
Professor, what would you like to hear in a political campaign about religion? My own feeling has been, if you want to hear about religion, go to church. I don't understand why it's ever discussed by politicians at any time. So I'm an extremist over here on, I don't want to hear a word about it. Then there's people who say, I need to know everything about you religiously in order to decide how I'm going to vote. I don't care where you are in taxes. I just care about where you are in religion. Where do you think the balance is here?
I think the balance is you state up front what you are, and that's it. You don't use it as a wedge or a divider, to use President Obama's words. I mean, I think what has happened is that all of these candidates have forgotten that there's a clause that says there is no religious test to be the president or for public office. This is just ridiculous. And further, you know, what I really think is that what Franklin Graham did this morning is the kind of grandstanding that he does every time he tries to latch onto the person he thinks who is the Christian values candidate. So the kinds of things he said this morning were just a total disconnect. I mean, you know, he knows that Mormons, that in his opinion at least, Mormons are not Christians. Catholics wouldn't have even been considered to be Christians by most evangelicals, and certainly not Southern Baptists. So this whole thing is just ridiculous. And what has happened is that they've used this as a way to sort of try to set another vetting point, and I don't believe that it's helping at all.
Let's listen to how Franklin Graham this morning distinguished his understanding of the faith that President Obama has versus the faith that Rick Santorum has.
I asked President Obama how he came to faith in Christ, and he said, I don't go to church.
Have you had that conversation with Rick Santorum?
I've talked to Rick Santorum, yes.
And he was just more persuasive to you on the depth of his sincerity on this question?
Well, I think so. But you have to look at what a person does with his life.
Gene, it seems that Reverend Graham would be well advised to stay away from politics on television.
He really should, or else he should pay closer attention. Didn't President Obama back during the campaign get into serious trouble for going to church, for going to a church that many people thought was the wrong church? You know, I think what most voters who are people of faith pay attention to is whether politicians walk the walk. I don't think they necessarily want to hear them talk the talk. And so for many Catholic voters, if a politician votes for or against abortion, that's important. For many evangelical voters, I think political stances and official actions that a politician takes can be important. But I don't think anybody is listening for a president to be kind of a theologian in chief. We like to hear our sermons on Sunday and not potentially from the Oval Office.
MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson and Associate Professor of Religious Studies at Penn, Anthea Butler. Thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up.